How much does it cost to go moto camping? That's the question I'm going to answer in this video. My name is Peter and I like motorcycles and motorcycle camping. I've been riding motorcycles for over 50 years, except for a break to raise my family and for my career. But since I retired, I started this YouTube channel so I could share everything that I'm learning with you and share all of my experiences. I did 2 major moto camping trips in 2024. But the first one, I went to a rally with some other guys, and then I took a long ferry ride, so the costs are not typical. I'm going to use my 10-day trip to Utah as an example about how much it costs to go moto camping. I did challenge myself to see if I could do this for under $20 a day. I was thinking about doing a $20 a day challenge. Let's see if I can do this whole trip on less than $20 a day. And spoiler alert, I didn't achieve that goal. But you might be surprised how low it actually turned out to be. So I'm going to break down my costs in 4 categories: gas, accommodation, food, and other. And other is those souvenirs that I bought on the way and a gift for my wife, because keeping things smooth at home means I can take other trips in the future. And I'm not going to talk about all the gear. There's lots of videos about choosing gear and which gear to have. I've been using the same sleeping bag for over 20 years, so I don't really even know what brand it is. And that's not important to me. What's important to me is getting out on the bike and having fun. And so I'm going to give you all the details on how those costs broke down over the 10 days. Of course, going to Utah is in the US and I'm from Canada, so all the costs that I'm talking about here are in US dollars. Like many things in life, the answer to what does it cost is, it depends. If you're like me and you like camping rough, then you can get away with camping for almost nothing. I only paid for camping twice on this trip. I paid $50 to stay in a commercial campground, which was highly disappointing, and I paid $17 to stay at a forestry site, which was pretty beautiful. It was actually the coldest night of my trip. It has nothing to do, it's not the campsite's fault. I could have done this trip for less, but I did stay at motels twice. So that is going to allow me to give you some idea on what it costs to stay at a motel. So when I was planning this trip, I realized that there was one night when I had to do 2 Zoom calls because of some obligations I had, and that was also the night of the US presidential debate, which I really wanted to watch. So I stayed in a motel that night, and I had planned it in advance. But there was another day when I had a really long day, and at the end of the day I decided I'm just going to go for a motel. But those 2 motels were mostly around the same price. They each cost around $140. So my total for motels was $183 for the 2 nights. Most of the sites that I stayed at, whether I paid or not, had an outdoor toilet available. The expensive campground, the $50 one, there was actually hot showers and flush toilets, but all the rest of them had vault toilet. 2 of the sites I stayed at had no toilet whatsoever. One of those was not an actual campsite, it was just a random spot in the desert. And the other had a picnic table, but no outhouse, just a nice spot by the river. I liked it, but there was nowhere to poop. And that's not really a problem for me. I'm used to backpacking and digging a little hole, so I always carry a trowel to dispose of anything. Or as I did that day, I found a rest stop just a little ways down the road with proper facilities. So each of my motels cost around $140. The total was $183 for motels. My 2 campgrounds that I paid for were $50 plus $17, so that's $67. So the total for all of my accommodation for 10 days was around $350 or $35 a night. So food is the other major expense that you're going to encounter. And it's always nice when you're on vacation to eat out, but I tend to buy groceries at grocery stores and make it myself. I only ate at restaurants twice for lunch and twice for dinner. And the rest of the time, I made my own food. Yeah, it's easy to buy stuff. I had a lot of beans and cheese. I carried tortillas, which pack well and travel well. Sometimes I had some bagels or other kinds of breaded stuff that I'd eat with cheese for lunch. I also had a couple of instant oatmeal breakfasts. My restaurant lunches cost $20 and $25. My dinners cost $30 and $25. You know, that's because I chose to only drink water at restaurants. Water was an expense. I can't break it out of my other expenses, but I ended up buying water a couple of times. I bought bottles of water, which is quite expensive way to buy water, and $6 for 2 liters of water. That's almost Well, not quite twice as much as I pay for gasoline at home. Also bought gallons of water, which is the cheapest way, and that varies quite a bit. And the other cost of drinks was, on these hot days, I like to buy a cold drink. Got some food for dinner and a lunch, and for a couple of days. I'll tell you, the hardest thing that I'm finding is not having cold drinks. And I spent $4.29 on buying some kombucha. And so that was something I hadn't expected that I would do. But you know, you get out there and it's hot and you're tired. You want something to cool down and a few snacks. So what I would recommend, and what I'll probably do for next year, is to get something larger to carry water in so that I can fill up with water where I can get it for free. I used to have a cactus bag from Giant Loop, but I lost it on one of my earlier trips, so I think I will replace that with another 2-gallon cactus bag. My total for food and drink over the trip was $160 that I bought for food from groceries and $100 for restaurant food. That's $260 on food, or $26 a day. Obviously you can't go on a motorcycle trip without buying gas, but the cost of gas really varies depending on your motorcycle and the distance that you're traveling. On my BMW R1200 RS, I rode about 6,000 kilometers or 3,700 miles, and the total cost of gas was $317, or about 8.5 cents a mile. So when I add in my National Parks Pass, a couple of souvenir t-shirts, and a gift from my wife, my total was $1,113, or $111 a day. But that doesn't cover the cost of the tires that I worn out. But if you want to know more about the cost of those tires, you better watch this video.